Good morning. We're continuing on day 348 of our 365 days of Bible study. We are looking at St. John's special insights into the teachings of Jesus, and today we're on John chapter 4 verses 1 to 26, and this is Jesus' encounter with the Samaritan woman. The Lord knew that the Pharisees had discovered he was making and baptizing more disciples than John. Actually, Jesus didn't baptize people himself. He left it to his disciples. So he left Judea and went back to Galilee. To get there, he had to pass through Samaria. And he came to a town called Sychar, which is not far from the field Joseph inherited from Jacob. Jacob's well was there, and Jesus was worn out from travelling. He sat down by the well at about noon. A Samaritan woman came there to draw water. Jesus said to her, "Can you give me a drink?" He was on his own. His disciples had gone into town to buy food. The Samaritan woman replied, "How come that you, a Jew, are asking me, a woman and a Samaritan, for a drink?" You see, Jews usually have nothing to do with Samaritans. Jesus answered her, "If only you knew God's gift, if only you knew who it is that's asking you for a drink. If you knew, you would be asking me, and I would have been giving you living water." "Look," she replied, "where's your bucket and rope? This well is very deep. Where are you going to get your living water? Are you better than our ancestor Jacob, who gave us this well? He's the one who drank from it himself, and so did his family and his cattle." Jesus said to her, "People who drink from this water will become thirsty again, but people who drink from the water I'm giving will never thirst. The water that I'm giving will become a spring inside that person, welling up to eternal life." The woman said, "Right, sir, give me this water. I'd rather not get thirsty again and have to keep coming back here for water." Jesus said to her, "Why don't you go and call your husband over?" The woman answered, "I don't have one." Jesus said to her, "How true. Actually, you've had 5 husbands, and the one you've got now isn't really your husband. You answered just right." The woman said to him, "Sir, I can see that you are a prophet. Our ancestors worshipped here on this mountain, and you say that Jerusalem is the right place for people to worship." Jesus said to her, "Believe me, lady, that the time will come when people will not worship the Father either on this mountain or in Jerusalem." You worship something you don't know. We worship something we do know, for salvation originates with the Jews. But an hour is coming, and it is now, when the true worshippers will worship the Father in spirit and truth, for the Father seeks such people to worship him. God is spirit, and those who worship must worship in spirit and truth. Well, now, there's some doubt about the name of the town where this happened. Between John's Aramaic and his secretary Papias's ignorance of Sumerian geography, they may have put down Sychar when they meant Shechem, which would be right for the location of Jacob's water source. Now, let's look at the occasion. It was the heat of the day. Not a usual time for anyone to be hauling large quantities of water home. The well should have been deserted. Perhaps this story owes a little to the meeting of Jacob and Rachel in Genesis 29. The contrasts are startling. First of all, it's Jacob who gives water to Rachel, an innocent young girl. Here Jesus asks this woman to give him a drink, and she is reluctant, and she turns out to have been far from an innocent young girl. Here John is deepening our understanding of how God works by using the symbolism of water. We've already heard Jesus talking to Nicodemus about how we need to be born of water and spirit. In that case, water referred to our natural birth and spirit to our new birth into the kingdom. We also learnt that the strictures of obedience to the law had no power to liberate our souls. Now here, outside Shechem, we have the opposite of Nicodemus. Not a man, but a woman. Not a Jew, but a Samaritan. Not a righteous teacher of Israel, but a woman of loose morals. Jesus gave to Nicodemus the gift of being born from above. Jesus gives to this woman the same gift, expressed only in slightly different terms. Living water that wells up inside you towards eternal life. Jesus came into the world to save everyone. He came to save the clever from their cleverness, to save the self-righteous from their pride, to save the rich and powerful from the snares of their possessions and influence. And he came to save sinners like this lady as by the well as well. She certainly is a sinner as far as the law of Moses is concerned, but look at how innocent she is in all other ways. She's no respecter of traditions, such as this one, that doesn't allow men to address unaccompanied women or Jews to speak to Samaritans. In many respects, she is already liberated. One thing she lacks: self-respect. The kind of self-respect that comes from knowing you are loved by God, who wants to give you gifts. The treasure many of us take from this passage is the quotation at the end: God is spirit, and those who worship must worship in spirit and truth. But the real treasure here, is God's love for sinners. He loves sinners. He loves them while they remain in their sin. If only they knew they were loved, how much better their lives would be in every way. So, Jesus has moved from a faithful Jew, Nicodemus, to a Samaritan woman, and tomorrow, right outside, to a Roman oppressor and his seriously ill child. I'll see you tomorrow.